Hello everyone, welcome back to our fraction unit. This is lesson 7, and in this lesson we're going to be comparing and ordering fractions. Things you're going to need for this, still always that fraction vocabulary from lesson 1. From lesson 3 you're going to need to know how to find prime factorization, greatest common factor, and least common multiple. Lesson 4, equivalent fractions and simplifying, and then finally from lesson 5, modeling fractions. Why do you care about learning this? You should care about this because it's going to help you understand fraction values relative to other fractions. It's also going to help you develop the ability to scaffold, which means build on top of each other, kind of like the base of the pyramid, and then the next one's a little bit less, but it all builds on each other. You can't get to the top of the pyramid without that big, strong base. So it's going to help you learn to scaffold what you've learned and use multiple skills in each one. For example, you're not going to be able to do this without all of those little pieces that I mentioned that you learned before. Okay? So goals for this lesson: I want to review our symbols for comparing numbers, then to understand the limitations of drawing fractions, to compare them, then finally develop a strategy that's going to work for comparing any fractions that you get. And we'll have a little advanced tips and tricks section at the end for critical thinkers and people who want to take the lesson a little bit further. Now, that part won't be for everyone, but it will be for people who maybe can see this and understand it, who really like math class and it really comes easy, and maybe not necessarily or not as important for people who find math class really hard. Okay? So let's go for it. Okay. So here we're going to review comparison symbols and terminology. Here I have A is greater than B. And you're right, A is greater than B. That's how you read it. This is the greater than symbol. Then next, the little a is less than the capital B, which is true. It's less than. I try to use the capital and lowercase for you to help understand that. And then A is equal to B right there. Okay? Next up, greatest to least. Just to remember what that is, it means order a set, placing the largest number first and descending in value down, down, down until you end with the smallest number. And we've got 1, 15, 24, 12, and 8 started with the biggest, ended with the smallest. Least to greatest is the opposite. We're going to order everything, putting our smallest first, and now ascending, going up, up, up every step of the way until we put our largest number at the end. So those same set of numbers in the opposite: 8, 12, 24, 115. All right. Next page. Next page. So here we go. We're going to first start out with just basic comparison. And for these basic comparisons, it's not going to be a problem. These are pretty easy. So I'm actually going to allow you, let's draw them. We've got a circle. I need to split it into 4 equal parts. And I've got another circle. I have to split it into 2 equal parts. Over here, I can only count 3 out of these 4 parts. So let's color them in. 1, 2, and 3. And finally, on this one, we can color in just one of the 2. Now, it's pretty easy to see here that there's much more red colored in than the 3 out of 4. Keep in mind that when you're comparing, you need to compare actual circles that are the same size. If I have one circle that's, this big and another one that's this big, well, no matter how many parts of this little one, it's not going to be the same as if I take half of a big one. So that's called comparing apples to apples instead of comparing apples to oranges, which wouldn't be fair because they're not the same thing. Okay? But it's really easy to see that this one right here is the larger of the 2. That means we're going to want to put in the greater than symbol. So when we read it straight across, it'll be 3/4 is greater than 1/2. And that's correct. One way to remember it is if this little thing, right, it's a little like a dragon or something, you can draw some sort of a monster that wants to eat the bigger one. Very hungry, wants to eat the bigger number, the bigger fraction every time. Okay, so the mouth open, trying to eat the bigger one. Order from greatest to least. Now these are pretty simple fractions again, okay? And we've gone through the modeling fractions lesson, so you know how to make these circles work. So as I draw them, I need to split the first into 4 parts. Done. This one into 3, so remember I'm going to kind of go like that. Next one just into 2, really easy. And then this one, Okay, we're going to save that for the last. I have 3 out of 4 here. Color it in. Color it in. Okay, I've got my 3 out of 4 parts. This one I've got 2 out of 3. This one I'm only going to get to use 1 out of the 2 parts, if you can recall that. And then from here it's pretty easy. If we're going from greatest to least, it looks pretty obvious to me that this is the biggest. Right here, 3/4 is the biggest, and then 2/3 is next, and then 1/2 is next. And that's pretty easy. But the more fractions you start adding in, and the more difficult the numbers become, the harder the drawing is going to be to compare fractions. It's a good skill to have, but it has its limitations. Let me show you. We're going to do this one right here. I'm going to kind of draw a star and connect out. There. I've broken this down into about 5 equal parts now, and I'm going to color in 4 of them. Now, I know that 4/5 is larger than any of these others that we did before, but you can tell it's a lot harder to tell now, and the more numbers you're going to get in. So this is about the limit, okay? This is about the limit of what drawing your fractions can do to compare them. Okay, it's a good exercise, but that's the limit. So we're going to go down to the way that works every time for any number that you might end up getting, or any fraction, okay? And the way to do that, again, apples to apples. These don't have the same denominator, and we really need them to have the same denominator. So right now, you're going to need to find your least common multiple of the denominators, also commonly referred to as least common denominator. So I'm going to work through it with you. Even though you should have this skill from a previous video, we're going to find the least common multiple real quick. So I need to do factor trees of 12 and 18. Okay, got 6, 2, 3, and 2. There's my finished least here. I'm going to have 6 and 3, 3 and 2. Those are all prime numbers. So I've got my prime factorization for 12, 3 times 2 times 2, and for 18 I have 3 times 3 times 2. All right, you guys remember this, I hope. We've got a 12 and an 18, and we're going to put in 12's 3, 2, 2. Now, we're going to look for our matches. Those 3 are already in there. In 18, I have a spot for this 3 right there. Cross it out. But for my second 3 in our 18, I don't have it. I've got to come out here. All right, there's no spot there. Those are for 2's. Cross it out because I put it in. Then I have another 2. I do have a match for that too, so it goes in. I'm done with all of my numbers. For the least common multiple, remember we said LCM, and the little device to help us remember, we're going to use all of the columns, ALL, all columns. So we're going to do 3 times 2 times 2 times 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, 6 times 6 is 36. So we know that our common denominator is going to be 36. Well, now what we have to do is we have to find equivalent fractions for these. Okay, so I have 7/12, and I need it to equal x over 36. Now, how do I get from 12 to 36? We're going to do this one this way. I can multiply by 3, multiply this by 3, and I'm going to get x equals 21. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this x now that I know it's supposed to be there, and I've got 21/36 for that problem. All right, and now we're going to do 11 over 18. We need that to also have a 36 for a denominator, but we're going to do this one the other way, okay, that we learned. So this is going to be 18 x's, and this will be 11 times 36. Now that's going to seem kind of intimidating to you at first. We know that these are going to have to equal each other. But if we break 11 down to 10 and 1, it becomes very easy. 36 times 10 is going to give me 360, and then I just add another 36 to get 396. So 396. Now I'm going to have to do some division. Okay, so I'm going to change colors. I should have done that earlier to help you see it a little bit better. But 396 and 18. 18 does not fit into 3. We're going to move over to 39. It's going to fit into there twice. Total of 36. Subtract it out. 3, bring down my 6. And it's going to fit into there exactly 2 times. 2, 36, subtract it out, have my 0. So I know that for 11/18, when I find the equivalent fraction, it's going to be 22/36. Great. Isn't that wonderful? Which one's bigger? 11/18 with 22/36 or 7/12 with 21/36? Well, I know that 22 is bigger than 21, so that's going to tell me that my 11/18 is the larger fraction. Okay? That's the work. That will work every time. Finding the least common denominator, finding your equivalent fractions, and then comparing them when they have the same denominator. All right? Very good. Next up, we're going to have comparing and ordering. So now I want us to put these in order. Okay? It's not going to be just enough to look at them. We need to find them in order. So we need to get them to have common denominators again. So we just went through that process once to save time. Okay, you can go back and watch how to do it for all of these if you want, or you can go further back. I'm going to tell you that the common denominator for all of these numbers is 24. So we're just going to skip to the step of finding equivalent fractions. So I'm going to have 7/8. Okay, 7/8 equals x over 24, and I have 3/4 equals x over 24. You have 5/6 equals x over 24. Finding all of the equivalent fractions with the same denominator so we can compare. Remember I said apples to apples. Okay, so it's a fair comparison. And finally, 19/24. Well, that's already on top of 24, so we've saved some time there. I know to get from 8 to 24, I need to multiply by 3, so I'm going to do the same thing up here, times 3. And I am going to say, okay, it's 21. I'm going to erase my x. 7/8 will be 21/24. Okay? I know that to get to 24 from 6, I need to do 6 times 4. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top times 4. Okay? That's going to be 20. So far we know that 7/8 is bigger than 5/6. Now let's come down here. To get from 4 to 24, remember over here we did 4 times 6? Well, now we're going to do 4 times 6 again. Times 6 on the bottom, times 6 on the top. That's going to give me 18. So I'm going to erase my x. And I've got 18/24. So here we go. I've got all of our fractions. Now let's put them in order. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, get some extra room on my paper. First up, if we're going greatest to least, biggest to smallest, I want my largest, which was 21 out of 24. Is that correct? Nope, I believe, yeah, it is. Good. Sorry, 20 out of 24 comes next, then 19 out of 24, then 18 out of 24. Now, let's go back and write them back down in order from greatest to least in the original form. So my 21 out of 24, if we go back up and look, 21 out of 24 was equivalent for 7/8. So I'm going to put down 7/8 first. Okay? That's our largest fraction. Next, 20 out of 24 parts, that was matched up with 5/6 up there. So we're going to come down and put 5/6. Very good. Next up, 19 out of 24. Well, that's what it was originally. So we've got 19/24. And then finally, the last fraction we had, if we come back up real quick and look at it, 18/24 started out as 3/4. So I'm going to write it up there, 3/4. Okay? You used all sorts of skills in this, okay? If you can't remember any of the specific skills, you can always go back to previous videos and rewatch them. Otherwise, this should get you a good start. Follow the rules, do the things we talked about, and you'll have lots of success in your comparing and ordering of fractions. Good luck.